Before I get started, I need to say that the balance patches for battle mode are quite frequent, so like my other videos about this stuff, what you're about to see might not be exactly the same as described by the time you watch it. This video was made on June 22nd, 2020, where what I'm about to discuss is the current state of the mode. Additionally, this was all captured on PC, and PC versus console battle mode are different games with different balance changes. The Revenant is my favourite multiplayer demon, and has been for years across both 2016 and Eternal's battle mode, but as the patches have developed and other demons have received some love, on top of the meta itself changing as players learn the game more, this demon has begun to slightly fall out of competitive favour. As of this video being live, a balance patch has hit that has totally changed how the Revenant is played. This video is to highlight those changes, and to discuss where the demon currently sits in the meta, and, more importantly, what the new things are that you, as a Revenant player, should look out for. A developer note from Hugo Martin claims the following, which is something I agree with. The Revenant was too weak in the first round, and it wasn't that viable versus elite slayers. Both of these are completely correct to me because the jetpack cooldown was so long that after a couple of dashes, the Revenant was completely helpless in round 1. However, those dashes were the only way to not get easily picked off by range damage, making the Acrobat upgrade mandatory after the first round, as Acrobat addresses jetpack cooldown and recharge time significantly. Versus elite level slayers, Revenant's damage output was easily countered by Chain Gun Shield, which just absorbs all the damage effortlessly, and now you've used your main source of burst damage and are helpless to fight back. So, some changes have been made. Allow me to list the changes one by one, taken directly from the Slayers Club website, and explain what those changes have done to transform the Revenant style of play. Again, I'm only highlighting the PC version here because it's the version that I play and the version that we see on Friday Night Fights. Doom Eternal's competitive community activity. Primary Fire's rocket speed has been sped up from 40 ms to 60 ms. This just means the rockets go faster, which makes them much better for direct hits, or just damage in general. You feel more accurate now, and it is definitely a satisfying change. Jetpack has received some changes too, where the base recharge delay has gone from 2 seconds to 1 second. Afterburner, aka the dash, recharge delay has been reduced from 2 seconds to 0 seconds. Basically, with both of these combined, the Revenant can use the jetpack and dash way more freely. The extremely long recharge time that you would have to wait for usually now pretty much doesn't exist. When it comes to dashes, it feels like the Acrobat dash upgrade is now part of the base kit. It's instantly covered the round 1 weakness with movement because now, from round 1, you can always dodge or evade or position yourself before the round even begins. It has been a major upgrade and the best buff the Revenant received by far. Changes have been made to the upgrades though, and that's mainly to match some fundamental changes that applied as well. Acrobat now is pretty much a jetpack only buff, where the fuel duration has gone from 5 seconds to 10 seconds. The Afterburner changes, essentially being base kit now, means that Acrobat isn't mandatory anymore. Unstable Trigger is purely a means to get more damage out of Rocket Barrage, as it lasts a little bit longer. This does bring me on to the other changes made on top of the buffs that Revenant received though, and this is what has changed the Revenant significantly into almost an entirely new demon. First of all, Defensive Action Set used to have armor as the buff. This reduced incoming damage for a short time and was personally my set of choice because the armor was useful when using something like Rocket Barrage that for the most part leaves you stuck in place. This has since been changed, and currently Defensive Action Set now has haste instead of armor, which increases attack and movement speed for a short time. This is quite the hit to the Revenant, as armor was often seen as mandatory against specific slayers. The reduction in damage meant that you could fight, sustain, and also be at less risk going for your biggest attack, which is Rocket Barrage. Now, losing this means there's more emphasis on outputting damage instead of sustainability. Additionally, Rocket Barrage has had its cooldown drastically extended. It went from 13 seconds to 30 seconds. This is why Unstable Trigger no longer affects cooldown time, because now it's a set amount. The thing about this is that Rocket Barrage, while definitely stronger due to other changes I'll mention soon, The cooldown is absolutely noticeable. In intense fights where a Slayer is relentless in pressure, you don't often have a lot of chances to barrage when you otherwise would be used to. You get much less of them in a round-by-round basis, and there's a much larger focus being put on the barrage being used at exactly the right time. Another change made to the Revenant is splash damage, and this affects both primary fire and especially the rocket barrage. Splash damage is better, it's more damaging than it was. It essentially means the damage that you get from primary fire becomes more consistent, because as long as you're generally in the right place, the damage is pretty decent, right? The splash damage on rocket barrage, however, makes the damage a lot more extreme. It's a ton more consistent than it once was, because now it feels like you get more of the rockets hitting for the damage that they should do. The downside to this is splash damage being extremely amplified to you as well. The self-damage you take from rockets is a lot higher, and using barrage up close definitely hurts quite a bit. It's high risk, and I, ashamed to say, have accidentally blown myself up quite a few times while getting this footage. When using it at close range, make sure that you have the health to back it up, otherwise you're done. So, what has this turned the Revenant into, and how do we best use those changes? First of all, the glass cannon design of the Revenant has been drastically turned up, because the stuff that you would usually use for staying alive just isn't available anymore with the removal of armored. The extra mobility really does help, and it is a change that I hope sticks around, but the movement is now the only tool that you have to prevent incoming fire from just shredding you down, as remember, we have a pretty low base HP stack of 2000. The tools that you need have to be used at the right time to get that turnaround damage that changes the tide of a fight, like an instant barrage at a Slayer that might be overextending or something. But the way I used to play Revenant pretty much doesn't exist anymore, and I've had to learn the art of tactical rushdown more than I did before. You can still use the better dashes to stay careful and be hard to hit, something the Revenant has always been good at, the mobility. Apart from situational demon combinations like an Archvile or something, I actually don't really use the defensive set at all, at the moment anyway. I prefer the aggressive set, and let me explain why in light of the recent changes. First of all, the chain gun shield meta is absolutely real. In this current version of the game, Slayer's chain gun shield can only really be countered by the Noxious Hazard, which is exclusive to the Revenant's aggressive set. It does damage every tick, but more importantly, it removes the chain gun shield from the Slayer if it's currently active. Slayers using the shield to block your barrage was a thing even before all of these changes, and now the barrage has a much longer cooldown. You need something to compete with the damage blocking properties of the shield, otherwise you'll just get destroyed because your burst is now completely gone. Hazard can be used to amplify the burst damage because of combining the new rocket barrage with the hazard respectively. Working with a smart demon player who uses the hazard as well, and the damage can be pretty insane. The final reason, though, is that Tactician is still a very popular upgrade for Revenants to take, because being able to have longer action skills and lower their cooldowns means a lot for the aggressive set, because it means that the hazard only has a 24-second cooldown by the time it disappears. Looking at the fact Barrage has a 30-second cooldown now, and that you can often combine these for damage, and especially countering Chain Gun Shield, you basically get both of your major attacks at almost the same time. Tactician makes this much better. What's happened by the Afterburner base changes means we don't need to take Acrobat every round 2 anymore, opening up a slot for a different upgrade. Currently, an extremely useful one is Bigger Bar. This gives you 2500 HP, and it lets you respawn after going down with 1250. You can tank extra damage, while at the same time being way harder to hit if your Afterburner dash is good enough. Combine this with eternally useful double team heal power upgrade that players like to equip, and you've just become a lot more dangerous. Even in this clip, for example, I've respawned and we both have double team heal. We go back to pretty much full HP, and it is quite the surprise factor with some of the new changes applied. Currently, the Revenant is more fun to use on a mobility sense, and it's really good being able to finally move in round 1 without just going down for free. I also love the primary fire speed changes because it just feels better, more responsive. However, it feels like a totally different demon now because the self-damage being so high, combined with an extra long rocket barrage cooldown. It means that your issues against dealing with a chain gun shield happy Slayer, or one that knows how to escape a bad situation that your barrage would normally finish off, will still give you those same problems. Losing the armored state was a major hit for sure, in my opinion anyway. Where the Revenant is now is an interesting one. It's still not a demon that will consistently give masses of trouble on its own, but it's much harder to pin down and hit. It can run away, it can still waste time for a teammate to respawn if needed. All of these things haven't changed. Hazard and Barrage both do insane damage, especially when you put them together, but your weaknesses will remain. What happens when the burst is gone, and the burst will be gone a lot more often with a longer barrage cooldown. A fun demon for sure, still definitely my favourite, but I can't say that I think it's particularly top tier with the weaknesses being as out in the open as they currently are, and they're quite easy to exploit too. But hey, play battle mode, pick up the Revenant and give it a try yourself. You'll still have a great time flying around the map, as I do. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.